Guys, wow, can you believe it? 2023 is coming to a close. This is my 4th year of doing these movie reviews and these entertainment reviews here on YouTube, and I've been having such a fun time with you guys. 2023 was a crazy year in terms of entertainment, and in turn, we have received a lot of great movies on streaming and the theaters especially. There were some blockbusters that left a little bit to be desired, but overall, I was very satisfied in the overall quality of movies that we received this year. And we're here to talk about my personal favorite movies of the year. All 20 of them. That's right. If you're new to this channel, what the heck are you waiting for? First of all, welcome. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Hit that thumbs up. But I usually do 20 favorite movies on this best of countdown because, as per usual, I really enjoyed a good amount of movies this year, and there were a lot of them that I feel like deserve to be on a best of list. And let me tell you, I feel like this year, more so than any other year I've been doing this best of list has fluctuated so freaking much. There were a lot of movies that I've taken off the list, I've put back on the list. Point being is more new movies have come and gone, and the more I think about these movies and the more I revisit them, the list evolves into what it sits as right now. And my list is certainly going to be very different from a lot of you watching this video right now. So feel free to let me know what your list of 20 favorite films is down in the comment section below, because that's the great thing about movies. Movie is a form of art. It touches me in a different way that it touches you probably. So we're probably going to have a lot of variation on my list especially. It's all a matter of opinion, though. That's what makes this fun. But before I get into my 20 favorites, I do have a small list of honorable mentions. Not as many as I had last year, but a good chunk of these movies at one point or another were on my top 20. Those include Elemental, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, a great year for animation, clearly. Thanksgiving, Scream 6, Extraction 2, The Color Purple, They Cloned Tyrone, and still a Michael J. Fox movie, the best documentary we've seen all year long. This is getting into the most enjoyable, the most fun experiences I had at the movie theater, and I feel like when it comes to fun, there is no more proper entry than my number 20 this year. If you would have told me a year ago that Super Mario Bros. Was going to be making an appearance on this countdown, I would have looked at Illumination's name on this title, and I would have thought you were bonkers. But clearly a fantastic year for animation. Certainly not the last animated movie you're going to see on this countdown. This is, aside from one other entry that we'll be talking about, the most colorful movie that you will look at all year. Nintendo's visuals and their colors absolutely pop on the big screen. And we also get a Best Original Song nominee that never was. Everybody on Twitter was talking about how Jack Black was gonna actually have an Oscars performance this time. Man, he was robbed. Him as Bowser is one of my favorite casting choices all around. The entire supporting cast overall, I think it's one of the best crafted supporting casts I've seen all year. Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach, Charlie Day as Luigi. Chris Pratt is still a little bit iffy as our main character, but honestly, I had loads of fun watching this in the movie theater. I had loads of fun rewatching this. I especially had a lot of fun checking this out when I was down in LA for WrestleMania week. I saw this with my girlfriend down there. We had a fantastic time. Super Mario Bros. Is the biggest prove me wrong movie of the year. Keeping in the fun category is Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. And let me tell you, even though Chris Pine definitely portrays a lesser version of Star-Lord, and he's likened very much to Star-Lord, my god, I just want to explore the vastness of this world. There was so much that this movie didn't even dig into. Out of all the original blockbuster-style movies we've seen this year, I want to see a sequel to this. And sadly, I don't know if we're getting one, because this movie did not make nearly enough in the box office like the movie studio wanted to. But I've heard that a lot of these guys are very open to the possibility of a sequel. And man, if we get one, yeah, I'm there day one. Because I think if the studio plays its cards right, with how unorthodox of an IP this is, Honor Among Thieves just might turn into this generation's Curse of the Black Pearl. I'm not saying this movie was nearly as good as Curse of the Black Pearl, but damn, it was so much fun. Coming in at number 18 is Netflix's exclusive Maestro, certainly one of their big Oscar contenders. Bradley Cooper in this movie is just throwing every ounce of energy, not just into his direction, but as an actor. I think this is an outstanding follow-up piece to A Star is Born. And I feel like the only reason why this movie isn't rated higher up on my list, like I'm sure it might be for a lot of other people, it basically just kind of shows you the trajectory of this man's life. And throughout his career, he had a lot of positive things happening to him. So the movie itself felt more like a documentary without really any obstacles for this guy. And it was just kind of showing you historical events, which isn't a bad thing whatsoever. But the next entries on this list are for sure way more emotionally investing. Oh, I can already feel the Scorsese fanboys hating me for putting Killers of the Flower Moon at number 17. But guess what, guys? In the long haul, this movie is still on my list because Scorsese still knows how to freaking do it. Leonardo DiCaprio as our central character is absolutely electric. Robert De Niro gives one of my favorite villain performances I've seen in a Scorsese movie in quite some time. He is the perfect wolf in sheep's clothing. But the real star of this movie is Lily Gladstone, and I'm really hoping that she gets nominated for Best Actress, maybe even winning. What holds Killers of the Flower Moon back for me is I wish the movie was about her, because I respect the hell out of this movie for honoring the natives that were on Osage County back then, but I feel like the movie would have hit you more emotionally if Lily Gladstone's character was your lead. And honestly, she very well could have been, because she was acting her heart out against acting heavyweights like DiCaprio and De Niro, and she stole the entire movie from me. But the craft that Scorsese is still displaying at this day and age, like anytime you go into a theater with his name on it, you know you're probably going to be in good hands. Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut, Creed 3, honestly made me very happy. I walked into this movie very cautious because honestly, after Creed 2, I didn't know where else this story could have gone. But he takes the 9th entry in this overall franchise and still manages to make it as interesting as it is. The conflicts between hero and villain, former brothers that have been torn apart. It's just masterful chemistry between Jordan and Jonathan Majors as Dame. And yeah, say what you want about him now. Back before all those allegations came out, Majors was on top of the world. And movies and performances like this are a big reason why. But the fact that Jordan clearly took his anime inspiration and put it into a boxing movie, it's something that you probably have never seen in a Rocky movie before, and that makes it the most unique movie of the entire franchise. You know, for a while, I had Air so much higher on my list because Ben Affleck certainly is showing you that he still got it as a director. And it's probably the biggest departure for him as an actor because he is just so rambunctious and out there. And Matt Damon is the reserved one of the two. It was great to see the two best friends reunite on screen. Damon as Sonny Vaccaro is excellent, of course. And it gives us the best Jason Bateman performance in at least 5 years. And this is one of those sports biopics where I didn't really know the full story going into it, but I wanted to sink my teeth into any sort of documentary that actually covered this deal. Dumb Money is a movie that made me oddly care about finance, a subject that I am certainly not well traversed in, but Dumb Money honestly puts you in that point where you can be a casual audience member, and no pun intended, you can definitely understand all the terminology that they're throwing at you, and it can make you so fully invested. Because this is another one. I remember when this whole coup was actually going on with the GameStop stocks and actually investing in it. And your main character, played by Paul Dano, is a YouTuber. Crazy, isn't it? But this whole cast completely knocks it out of the park. You get another great Sebastian Stan performance in here. If you missed the Dumb Money, maybe one of the most underrated movies of the year. Knock at the Cabin is number 13. Easily M. Night Shyamalan's best movie since Signs. Yes, I said it. I like this movie more than Split, because the character work that you get in this script is so compelling. The dilemmas Shyamalan is digging into are extremely compelling. And yeah, some people might call Shyamalan a hack considering all of his plot twists. They might consider Shyamalan a hack because of all the tropes that he has in his writing and over-explaining everything. But I think it's the cinematography. He gets the DP for The Lighthouse on this project, and the best performance of Dave Bautista's career. All this put together really propels Knock at the Cabin over the top, while also being probably the most thrilling movie that Shyamalan has come out with aside from Split, especially in recent years. I think if you missed Knock at the Cabin, or if you haven't seen it in a while, this is one to give another look. Much like the Creed movies, it is insane that the 7th movie in a franchise can still be as epic and as awesome as the original. Because Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 was awesome. Tom Cruise is showing you how to do action. They really don't do action like this anymore. Unless you're Tom Cruise and you do something like a Mission Impossible movie with all these practicals, all these practical stunts. You have a great new leading actress performance in Haley Atwell. All of your returning cast members are of course great. Rebecca Ferguson gives what I think may be her best performance in the MI franchise so far. And you get a very ice-cold villain played by Esai Morales. Christopher McQuarrie certainly knows how to do action, man. He's one of the best to do it right now. And yeah, that train sequence, pitch perfect finale. Coming in at number 11 is the weirdest movie I watched all year, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos in Poor Things. Emma Stone already has an Oscar win to her credit for La La Land, and she just might take home the Oscar again for this performance. Because the whole full circle arc that this character is experiencing is astounding, and her understanding and the respect of this character. Like, I don't think there's another leading actress performance that really understands the gravity of what this character is going through. Yeah, you can knock this movie all you want for saying that this is a weird, artsy, fantastical version of Frankenstein. I even said in my review that this premise, her relationship with Willem Dafoe, whose face is absolutely deformed and great prosthetics, it's literally Frankenstein in reverse. And the imagery you see in this movie is stuff that you will absolutely never forget. Probably one of the most pleasant surprises of the year, Godzilla -1 starts off our top 10. I saw this in a great theater. It was a ScreenX viewing. If you've ever been to a Cinemark, you'll know what I'm talking about, where you're absolutely surrounded on all sides by projector screen. And man, that was one of the most invested theater experiences I've had all year long. And it's a great, true return to form for kaiju-style movies. And honestly, it's crazy to say this, but this might be the best Godzilla movie ever. The MonsterVerse movies were absolutely put to shame by -1. The fact that this is a country that had just been nuked after World War II, and the fact that you have this gigantic reptilian monster coming in and wreaking all sorts of havoc after the fact that the bombs had been dropped, that makes Godzilla frightening as hell. Now, I will admit, the reason why this movie is not higher on my list like it is on a lot of my other peers on YouTube, yeah, I would have liked a little bit more of an emotional gut punch in that finale. I definitely feel like the ending kind of cheats a little bit. But man, I cannot wait for the sequel. And if what the director is saying is true, sequel. Speaking of sequels, coming in at number 9 is John Wick Chapter 4, the best pure action movie I have seen all year long. Chad Stahelski really has gained such a firm grasp of the camera, and he is just like, he's not letting this franchise go. Even though there is a great sense of finality once Chapter 4 eventually wraps up with the death of Keanu Reeves' John Wick. Like, that's it. Just end the franchise. We don't need any spin-offs. But you know, if this does turn out to be Keanu Reeves' final hurrah as John Wick, he kills it. No pun intended. And the direction and the editing and the framing of this movie and how you see all these fight sequences go down, absolutely unforgettable. And even though this movie clocks in at near 3 hours, it is one of the most fun experiences I had watching a movie this year. And you're gonna sense a theme of fun, especially as we get towards the top of my list, because coming in at number 8, we've got a movie that I desperately needed when I was sick out of my mind. I was just getting over a cold, and I decided to go to the movie theater on a rainy day in California and I went and saw Evil Dead Rise. And this is coming from someone who, I'm sorry, I did not see Talk to Me, do not come after me, I will get to it. Evil Dead Rise was my favorite horror movie I've seen all year long, because it takes the silliness of what made the original so iconic, and it adds this whole new terrifying layer into things. And the leading performance of Andrea Sutherland, I believe her name is, off the top of my head, like, her dedication to this part is just mwah, chef's kiss. Evil Dead Rise will never make you want to look through a peephole ever again. That would not be a groovy experience. What a segue when talking about groovy things, because coming in at number 7 is the highest grossing movie of 2023, believe it or not. Not a superhero movie. It is based off a popular IP, but it's Greta Gerwig's Barbie, and you have no idea how happy that makes me. I bet you if 10-year-old Zack Goller were watching this video right now, and he sees how high this Barbie movie is ranked, boy, that kid would have looked at me very funny. But I would tell that kid, look, grow up. You will sit here, you will watch this movie, young Zack, and you will like it. And yeah, hopefully he would. But joking aside, Margot Robbie, pitch perfect casting. Ryan Gosling should and will get a Best Supporting Actor nomination, and I better see a performance of I'm Just Ken during that ceremony. Believe it or not, that's my pick for Best Original Song. I'm not kidding you. That song I've listened to on repeat so many times, especially in the couple weeks after Barbie came out. I saw this movie twice in theaters. I recently rewatched it on 4K. It was an absolute blast, and I can't wait to continue rewatching it for years to come. All right, look, before anybody judges me for this choice, let me explain why Wonka comes in at number 6. It's because as someone who loves that original with Gene Wilder, I went into this movie probably the most cautious I've been since The Force Awakens, and I was made very happy. This was the holiday tentpole of the season. Timothée Chalamet, say what you want about the guy, but he captures the spirit of what made Gene Wilder so likable back then. The zany nature of Willy Wonka, he absolutely catches. And yet he still manages to make this huge departure for him from dramatic material. He manages to make it his own. And he's doing his own singing, too. Who doesn't love a good musical? I've seen this movie twice in the theaters. Once with my 7-year-old cousin Harper, who you recently saw in my spoiler review, and he absolutely loved it. Anybody can love this movie. If Paul King's name is on a family movie like this, don't doubt him. This movie was scrumdiddly-umptiously delightful. And I don't care what you say, but yeah, I loved Wonka, and I've seen it twice so far. I'm planning on seeing it a third time. Hell, I might want to see it a fourth time after it. Now, this top 5, every single one of these movies I gave an A+ to in my initial reviews. This is the cream of the crop right here. It was very, very, very hard to put this top 5 together as opposed to last year. And I can already feel the comments coming in that this movie is too low in the top 5, but you know what? It's on my list. Coming in at number 5 is the best animated movie I've seen in quite some time, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This is truly the Empire Strikes Back of this trilogy. This Miles Morales character arc is so compelling, and everything that you love about Spider-Man is put into this gigantic Spider-Verse thing, this whole Spider-Man headquarters. It's probably one of the quirkiest and weirdest and coolest things I've seen in an animated movie. And this is an animated movie that is gutsy. It's trying out lots of new techniques, revolutionary techniques, mind you. In this movie, I can't wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse. Like, it was such a mean ending, as my girlfriend put it when she saw it with me. Because it slams to black, it says, "To be continued." Like, I want to pop in Beyond the Spider-Verse right now. But as it sits, this is one of the better sequels to come out in recent years. If Wonka was as delightful as it was, The Holdovers just feels like a warm hug. And I know that Alexander Payne does not want this to be deemed a Christmas classic, but listen, Christmas plays into the plot. If you took Christmas out of it, unlike some other movies that we've talked about in the past, The Holdovers probably wouldn't work. I described this in my review as the best of The Breakfast Club and A Christmas Story all rolled up into one. This is the best I've seen Paul Giamatti in years. I would love to see him get nominated for Best Actor. Divine Joy Randolph should get nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Dominic Sessa is an absolute revelation in this movie. And this is my favorite Alexander Payne movie to come out since The Descendants. The Holdovers did everything I wanted to and then some. I can't wait to watch this next holiday season and for many more holiday seasons to come. Fittingly enough, coming in at number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Yes, I can already feel the Marvel haters in the comments just salivating at the thought of insulting me for putting this so high. But like I said, all film is subjective, it's my list, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 affected me so deeply. And it really did feel like the end of an era in a lot of cases. It felt like a complete story. Star-Lord freaking fantastic in this movie. It was great to see our favorite ragtag group of misfits in the MCU come together one more time. It was great to see James Gunn give his final swan song to Disney before going off and doing his own thing with DC. Please don't let me down. The High Evolutionary, probably the most cruel villain in a Marvel movie since Thanos. The fact that he's killing off animals and creating furries out of them, basically. Like, screw that guy. And Rocket Raccoon, with his backstory and his whole arc in this movie and the emotion that went into it. Yeah, there were a lot of gotcha moments in Volume 3. But with this whole turn for Rocket in this movie, it made him probably my favorite character in this universe. I loved Volume 3. I've seen it a couple of times since theaters, and I can't wait to watch it again. Whew. Okay, honestly, guys, this top 2, it's really a coin flip. Like, you could flip both of these around in my list, and I probably wouldn't mind it. But I had to be true to myself, and I had to be honest about how I really felt after watching both of these movies. Both of which did very impressive things for the material that they had. So with that being said, number 2. God, I feel like if I kept this hold longer for a minute, like, my hand would cramp up really bad. The Iron Claw, as a professional wrestling fan, just, like, yeah, I knew how gut-wrenching and tragic that the Von Erich story actually was. I was telling all of you, if you go and see the Iron Claw, if you don't know the story, just make sure you bring Kleenex, and that was all I was going to tell you. And man, writer-director Sean Durkin definitely brings a lot of respect to this story. He directs this movie with so much finesse for a relative unknown, and after watching The Iron Claw, I really cannot wait to see what this guy does next. A24, with movies like this, with Everything Everywhere All at Once, they are slowly starting to become one of my favorite studios out there right now. I mean, I'm not saying give me an emotional smackdown like this one every single year. No. Don't do that. I don't want to cry as much as I did with this. But all the performances across the board are stellar. If Zac Efron is not nominated for his career-defining turn as Kevin Von Erich, that will be a sin. Holt McCallany, fantastic supporting turn as Fritz. You have great performances from Jeremy Allen White, even though he might have been 6 inches shorter than Carrie actually was. Lily James just might have given my favorite Lily James performance since Baby Driver. This is one of the most devastating, heartbreaking movies that you will watch, so please tread lightly when you watch The Iron Claw, because the themes that it has, centered around suicide, familial pressure, the brotherhood in this movie is just, it just tears you apart, but by the end, it will inspire you. Now, the reason why this movie is not number 1 is because, yes, there are a fair amount of historical inaccuracies. Chris Von Erich, not in this movie. If you don't know who Chris Von Erich is, go watch Dark Side of the Ring. Go watch that whole documentary. It'll tell you every true piece of information about the Von Erichs that you need. This is definitely a very Hollywoodized, fictional turn on the Von Erich story, but I think with the time they were given, 2 hours and 10 minutes, this movie did exactly what it was supposed to. I'm calling for this one to be nominated for Best Picture. Screw it. So by process of elimination, some of you might have figured out what my number 1 is by this point. This is the movie that I would consider the experience of the year. There was no other movie that resonated more with me. There was no other movie that sucked me in for as long as it did, except for Oppenheimer. Christopher Nolan has made a 3-hour, epic, rated-R biopic. It pulled in $1 billion at the box office at least. That in itself is super impressive. The fact that he created this movie with zero CGI, That is impressive. And the fact that he was able to suck me in for 3 straight hours and my eyes were glued to that screen, like if you've been with me for a while, that's the kind of criteria I'm looking for in a #1 movie of the year. A movie that never falters in investing you, making you absolutely forget about the outside world and making you invested in one story. And I'm a huge history buff as well. I knew about J. Robert Oppenheimer and his contributions to society as it sits, but a lot of this imagery that Christopher Nolan is showing you and the performance of Cillian Murphy, it is showing you the true dangers and horrors when you unleash sheer brilliance like that. Cillian Murphy is probably a shoo-in to win the Best Actor award when it's all said and done. Robert Downey Jr. gives probably, I don't know if I want to say this is his career best because he was Tony Stark after all. But this just might be the vindication performance that will get him that Oscar. And the fact that you have huge names like Emily Blunt and Matt Damon taking smaller supporting roles in this movie just so they can work with Christopher Nolan, just the fact that Nolan is able to have that pull and that pedigree to bring those big named actors just in small people-sized roles. Florence Pugh is in this movie for all of 5 minutes, and her scenes were so freaking interesting. Like, the impressive technical feat of this movie goes without saying. The performances in this movie absolutely speak 1,000 words. This, in my opinion, Christopher Nolan's best movie since Inception. No question about it. And Oppenheimer is my #1 movie of the year. Also, fun fact, 2nd year in a row that the 3rd weekend of July has housed my favorite movie of the year. Last year, my favorite movie was Nope, so congratulations, mid-July. That seems to be the sweet spot for me. But joking aside, that's my list. Obviously, yeah, my list is going to be very different from a lot of you guys, but that's the fun of movies. It's an art form. It touches us in different ways, and the fact that we can come on here and discuss movies as respectfully as we have over these past 4 years, it's been a real treat, but there's no slowing down. 2024 is right around the corner. Lots of big releases still to come, and I can't wait to talk about them all with you guys. So if you're new, you don't want to miss another upload through the next year and beyond. So do consider subscribing today. Tap on that thumbs up as well. This is a great community of film lovers and entertainment lovers out here. Y'all are invited to join us. Guys, thank you again so much for talking movies with me this year. It's been quite the ride. So with all that being said, Back Talk, commence!